Hey, it's Kyle here, and today I'll be reviewing We the Drowned by Carsten Jensen. He is a Danish author. Not really familiar with him at all, but I saw this book actually at Barnes & Noble while I was on vacation this summer, and the title just caught my eye, so I kind of picked it up, read the back. Sounded very, very interesting. Definitely a genre I'm into, kind of a historical fiction book. That especially I've always liked historical fiction books that kind of cover like multiple generations, and you can kind of see how a group of individuals or a town or a country kind of changes over time. And sounded very interesting to me, so I picked it up, and I'm really glad I did. I enjoyed it a lot. This book is set in Marstal, Denmark, which is the author's hometown. It is very much a port city. The life around the entire town revolves around the sea, so you're either fishing it. The majority of the men in this book all work in the shipping industry, so they're sailors and they're constantly away from their town. If you're not working directly on a boat, your business usually revolves around, I guess you say, maritime related stuff or selling stuff to the sailors. As the book talks about a lot with the female characters, the bulk of their life, especially if they're married, their husbands are just always gone to sea, so like they have the town to themselves, and what that does to their relationships and their families and stuff like that. But overall, this book is actually, time-wise, is set starting in the mid-19th century, and it wraps up around World War II. It's divided into multiple sections, and basically each section covers a new generation. So you'll have couple hundred pages with one group of characters. Usually there's a main character, some people kind of related to the story of that character, usually set around historical events, kind of demonstrating how this town, Denmark, and the greater world in general is just changing. And the next section will usually skip ahead, maybe 10, 20, 30 years, and a lot of times the main characters in that next section will have been kids or younger acquaintances of the main characters in the previous section. So you can kind of see how the events of one group of individuals and the events that shape them impact the next generation. The entire time I was reading this, it very much reminded me of one of my favorite authors, Ken Follett, in his Kingsbridge series, where he's done multiple books set in this fictional town in England, Kingsbridge. Often they are set around a historical event, a major war or a technological breakthrough or something like that. And it'll cover several decades in this town and just like how these events impact the life of these individuals. I would say the difference with this book is like this is set in a real town in Denmark. You're getting a little bit more of a actual historical connection with this story than you do in than Ken Follett's books. Although from reading more about this book, a lot of the names are based on actually families that lived in there, but the individual characters in his are actually, made up, fabricated. He's not basing these on real individuals from his town's history. But I really love this book. It was very fascinating to kind of see how these people whose life revolved around the sea is dramatically impacted by stuff a lot of times they have no control over. So like, for example, you have a character who absolutely loves going to sea, loves the power of the cells and stuff like that. But then you're faced with the coming of modern technology, and you kind of see like the way this town is operated for hundreds of years is going away. There's nothing we can do about it. And he in some ways, he's mourning the town's death because he understands the town's never going to be the same after modern technology really completely changes the shipping industry. And you go from, cell-powered boats to engine-powered boats. The advent of modern war is coming that way. This storyline kind of leads into World War I and how that impacted. We suddenly have all these individuals from this town who are, working in the shipping industry in World War I, and they fall victims to mines, submarine warfare, that type of stuff. And the modern world is really coming for this town and their way of life that they've really had for generation after generation, and it's just going away. This author does a great job of, introducing a character, getting you to really care about them in a short amount of time, and then, kind of wrapping up their part of the storyline in, maybe 100, 150 pages, and then the next section really hooking you and making you care about these new characters just as much as you did in the previous section. Like I said, I really thought this book was really good. The only thing that kept it from being great to me, I didn't really enjoy the last section. The section around World War II and how that impacted the town and the characters just didn't really connect with me the same way the rest of the sections. I felt like it just almost felt like a little bit like a different book. The bulk of that story actually takes place away from the town, as the individuals, the characters you're following, are really either involved in the war, or they're kind of, since Denmark is occupied, obviously, by Nazi Germany during World War II, they're kind of, refugees. They might be living in England or somewhere else, but then still working in the maritime industry, in a lot of cases maybe working with the British Navy, and they're kind of facing this weird limbo, which is obviously very historical, accurate, but at the same time, story-wise, this section just feels so disconnected from the other sections that it kind of took me out of it. I just didn't really enjoy that section as much. It's just that's the last section. You kind of end the book, I'm like, oh, I'm not sure about this, because anytime you have a book like this that's kind of divided into multiple parts, your opinion on the book a lot of times is shaped on how the last part wraps up. And having the last section be your least favorite, kind of, it's like, oh, that's a little bummer. I almost wish there had been like a post-World War II section to maybe not have it end on that note, maybe having the characters a little bit more in the town again, and kind of wrapping up a little bit more of a close connection to the town, where you felt really almost disconnected from the town, the last section. But I would say if you love historical fiction, I would highly recommend this. And the cool part of this, obviously, certain parts of this book you are covering well-known events like World War I or World War II. But there's other parts of the book that are very historically important to Denmark, or this town in Denmark. And if you're not from Denmark, you're not familiar with Danish history like myself, it's all new info to me. So like you're not sure where it's going to go, and you're kind of interested to see how it impacts the individuals in this town. So again, if you love historical fiction, I would certainly recommend We the Drowned. I think you'll really enjoy it. So let me know in the comment section below, what is your favorite book in historical fiction you've read lately? Let me know. I'm always looking for some recommendations. If you enjoyed this review, please hit the like button. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you the next time, and happy reading.